suggesting I allow this to happen?
I'll honor your decision and keep it just between us.
I can use that as a way to protect us.
If the police ask me, I won't have a choice.
Are you still planning on getting back with Drew?
It was you who shot.
Drew's miraculous memory continues to defy both logic and anatomy. Shot squarely in the back, he somehow knows who pulled the trigger. Was there a rearview mirror installed in his spine? Or perhaps the writers are saving us with yet another unseen flashback, this time of Drew gazing at the family photo on the mantel and spotting the culprit's reflection in the glass. Apparently, bullet wounds now come with built-in surveillance. Of course, the list of suspects is a buffet. Some are convinced it was Willow, though Drew's tender, almost starry-eyed delivery of "It was you who shot me" suggests less accusation and more lovesick plea. Others think he's setting up Michael, fabricating a narrative where Michael takes the fall so Drew can play Willow's knight in shining hospital gown. Nothing says romance like extortion via gunshot trauma. The absurdity deepens when one considers medical accuracy. A man with 2 bullets freshly dug out of his back would hardly be lounging flat, like he's sunbathing. He'd be propped on his side if not demanding round-the-clock morphine. Yet there Drew lies, ready to plot, scheme, and blackmail between commercial breaks. Then there's the supporting cast of wasted potential. Jacinda exists merely as a pawn Drew will inevitably pay off. Kai, meanwhile, has proven himself a swift and spineless betrayer of Trina's family, a character whose lack of chemistry makes one nostalgic for Spencer's loyalty. Even Jocelyn's extracurricular killings are stacking up at a rate that makes one wonder if Port Charles's morgue offers a loyalty program. 3 bodies in a year, and she's still auditioning for WSB? Efficiency must count for more than morality these days. The show also insists on recycling comedic punishments. Charlotte, usually intolerable, earned rare points for her defense of Scout, though Lulu's choice of consequence was laughable. For both Charlotte and Rocco, the punishment is the same: clean the house and yard. At this rate, the Corinthos property will gleam like a 5-star resort, though the children may require years of therapy. In the end, Drew remains what he has always been: manipulative, self-serving, and conveniently indestructible. If his real plan is to frame Michael in order to worm his way back into Willow's heart, then congratulations, the character development is as stagnant as ever. 2 bullets and a surgery later, Drew is still the same trash heap wrapped in scrubs, just with more screen time. The biggest mystery in Port Charles isn't who shot Drew, it's why the writers think we'll buy any of this nonsense. Why is the bartender incapable of providing Michael with an alibi? Was he also laid up after back surgery? The sheer negligence of skipping over such an obvious witness is almost impressive. Meanwhile, Britt delivered the rare gift of genuine humor with her deadpan admission, "I really don't like your tattoos." The look on Jason's face matched the audience's, stunned amusement. Of course, the writers simply had to work his real-life tattoos into the plot, as if rising from the dead wasn't dramatic enough without a fresh sleeve. Curtis, meanwhile, seems to be dabbling in espionage light. Was that conversation with Drew being recorded to protect Michael, or simply to keep leverage in his back pocket? Hard to say. Then there was Brennan, whispering cryptic orders during a phone call that conveniently coincided with 5 poppies vanishing. Subtlety clearly isn't his strong suit. The suspect pool for Drew's shooting is expanding with almost comic desperation. Jacinda, Selena Wu, Willow, take your pick. The mysterious figure was slender, which of course narrows it down to nearly every woman on canvas. Perhaps Jacinda was hired by Curtis. Perhaps Willow snapped. Perhaps the writers just spun a wheel. Elsewhere, Britt and Jason's chemistry continues to ignite, tattoos and all. They manage to balance humor with tension, and their inevitable kiss is already being treated like the second coming of Luke and Laura. Monica's quiet fondness for Britt adds another bittersweet layer. One almost hopes she learns that Britt truly loved her son before Monica exits stage left. Unfortunately, not all characters are faring so well. Lulu, for example, is laughably hypocritical, breaking into hotel rooms while still wagging a sanctimonious finger at her daughter. If anyone belongs behind bars, it's Lulu, not the people she scolds. And then there's the new Charlotte, already written as a half-witted shadow of her predecessors. One wonders if her only storyline purpose is to make Lulu look competent by comparison. Meanwhile, Drew himself seems incapable of learning. Theories abound that he orchestrated his own shooting with Willow's help to frame Michael, gain custody leverage, or even blackmail Willow into marriage. Nothing says romantic lead like coercion via alleged kidnappings and murder cover-ups. Near-death experiences are supposed to bring clarity. Drew's only brought fresh vindictiveness. Jason, once a one-man army, now requires Joss to save him from a bar brawl with two nobodies. This is the same Jason who used to dismantle entire mobs single-handedly, yet here he is floundering against hired goons. Where exactly is the legendary enforcer the audience was promised? Dante, too, is spiraling into irrelevance. His scattershot accusations, "Who do you think shot you?" feel more like parody than police work. Drew predictably naming Michael is supposed to be a cliffhanger, but it lands with all the suspense of a wet sponge. Are we really expected to believe that an entire restaurant lacks security cameras? Or that the bartender, Michael's very public drinking companion, simply doesn't count? The only thing keeping this circus afloat are the rare sparks of genuine character connection. Jason and Britt's wit, Monica's warmth, and the occasional accidental comedy of Lulu's hypocrisy. Everything else is a whirling mess of convoluted suspects, recycled betrayals, and plot holes large enough to swallow Port Charles whole. At this point, even resurrecting Nathan with Faison's brain would make more narrative sense than the current logic-defying chaos. Which is precisely why it might actually happen. Drew didn't just get shot, he may have staged the entire thing. The latest General Hospital theatrics have served up a shooting so convoluted, it feels less like a crime and more like Drew Kane's audition for world's most transparent frame job. After all, when a man takes a bullet and the first thought out of his mouth is, "Michael did it," one has to wonder, did he hire the gunman himself just to play martyr? With Drew, nothing would be surprising, not even staging his own shooting in hopes of winning Willow by painting Michael as a criminal. Cyrus Renault must be somewhere fuming that his digitalis in the IV routine is going unappreciated, because this plot could have used a dose of real villainy. Instead, we're left with Drew sputtering threats and melodrama, promising Curtis that he'll finger Michael as his shooter. A smarter man might have asked about his daughter first, but Scout barely warranted a passing mention, with Elizabeth slyly reminding him of her existence. Priorities, clearly. And let's discuss that ring. Lila's heirloom has been recycled more times than a prop in the Quartermain attic. Michael once used it, and now Drew is apparently prepared to trot it out again for Willow. As if women in Port Charles dream of nothing more than inheriting each other's hand-me-down engagement rings. Tracy Quartermain, as usual, had the only sensible take. Drew doesn't just covet Willow, he covets Michael's entire life. Of course, Drew's plan to frame Michael comes with some obvious flaws. Dante, ever the pragmatic cop, knows Drew has a laundry list of enemies beyond his own family, making his accusations look desperate at best. Meanwhile, there's the not-so-small matter of surveillance footage. Port Charles has more cameras than a Vegas casino, and if Willow was indeed sneaking around the mansion that night, her heroic halo is about to slip. Naturally, the theories spiral. Maybe Willow pulled the trigger herself, out of spite, desperation, or some half-baked split personality twist that the writers seem all too willing to toy with. Maybe she wanted Drew gone and Michael out of the way, leaving her with the children unchallenged. Others point to mysterious figures like Jacinda, last seen intercepted by Drew, for reasons the show has yet to clarify. In Soapland, anyone with a shadowy car in the driveway is fair game. Yet the real frustration isn't who shot Drew, it's what the writers are doing with him. A coma would have been merciful, amnesia even better. Instead, he staggers around with barely a scratch, more concerned with pointing fingers than acknowledging he was nearly killed. The man doesn't even seem properly annoyed about being shot. He's too busy maneuvering for sympathy and Willow's affections. If Michael truly wanted Drew dead, he'd have hired a professional, job done, no questions asked. But this isn't about murder. It's about narrative gymnastics. Drew wants to be the hero, Willow's savior, the man who gifts her children back after nobly vanquishing Michael. It's laughable, it's transparent, and it's every bit the kind of storyline that drives viewers to switch off after 2 weeks of promising drama. At this point, the only real mystery is whether the show's writers will find a way to make this ridiculous shooting worth the airtime. Judging by Drew's current antics, don't hold your breath. Stop pretending this "Who Shot Drew" storyline is suspenseful. It's dragged on longer than any bullet wound in medical history. Apparently, espionage-grade surveillance is the new go-to for proving a point in Port Charles. Brennan has satellites aimed at suburban houses, as though the CIA has nothing better to do than track Drew's front porch. Meanwhile, Anna may, or may not, obtain crucial camera footage of 2 people not actually taking a walk. Riveting. Forget world peace. The fate of the neighborhood stroll is at stake. Then comes Michael, whose alibi is so airtight, it requires a bartender's memory and a credit card receipt. One imagines jurors across America quaking at the ironclad defense of "the bartender remembered me." And yet, despite such brilliance, Michael is still saddled with Marco as his attorney. The writers might as well send him to prison now and spare everyone the trial. Willow, meanwhile, continues her one-woman campaign against subtlety. Her every look drips with contempt toward Michael, as if the writers are begging viewers to notice. She should probably redirect that energy into something useful, like convincing Drew to drop restraining orders against Scout's mother and the Quartermains. But subtlety, much like logic, left this show long ago. And speaking of Drew, how many times must the man be shot before someone realizes the storyline is circling the drain? If this were an election cycle, voters would have demanded new candidates by now. The whodunit plot has overstayed its welcome, limping along with theories that range from Marco's absentee father to, hilariously, Drew himself hiring a professional to shoot him. At this point, either is plausible. The supporting cast fares no better. Charlotte, once a precocious child, is now written as a junior sociopath, and the audience is expected to just accept this evolution without question. Nina, by some miracle of genetics and narrative laziness, is apparently the perfect candidate for motherhood. And poor Detective Chase and Nurse Willow, characters so exasperating that even fans are begging Cyrus to speed things along with a fatal IV drip. Of course, no soap is complete without a fantasy twist. Imagine it. Drew manipulates custody rulings, only for Diane to wheel out evidence exposing him as the true villain. Michael walks free, Willow testifies with righteous fire, Alexis nabs custody of Scout, and the writers finally produce something resembling narrative satisfaction. A dream, indeed. But reality rarely indulges such logic. Instead, viewers are left pondering absurdities. Custody granted to someone without housing, Drew recovering from bullets with suspicious ease, and the eternal carousel of courtroom drama that never quite resolves. Even the show's opening credits spark debate. Missing photos, outdated cast shots, and the eternal mystery of who deserves a square. And yet, despite the chaos, fans remain glued, debating plot holes, rolling eyes at nonsensical twists, and enduring characters they loathe. Because for all its incoherence, General Hospital remains the rare spectacle where even a comet hired as a hitman, with carrots as payment naturally, seems only marginally less ridiculous than the official storyline. Never expect logic from General Hospital, because if you do, you'll be let down every single time. Soap operas have always thrived on suspending disbelief, but General Hospital seems determined to sprint past suspension and leap directly into absurdity. Case in point, the sudden collective obsession with Rick's bathroom schedule. Since when has any soap character needed bathroom breaks outside of Archie Bunker? Yet here we are, anxiously tracking his digestive regularity as if it's a plot point. Meanwhile, the bar where Michael's supposed alibi hinges apparently doesn't own a single functioning security camera. Forget the fact that bars, banks, and even bakeries now have wall-to-wall surveillance. This particular establishment must have missed the memo. And the Scooby Gang fleeing a bomb while casually leaving a gun behind? Because who needs extra protection during a life-or-death sprint? Then there's the Alexis, Ava, Christina, and Rick subplot, which someone brilliantly likened to 9 to 5. Sadly, without Dolly Parton's charm or Jane Fonda's wit, the resemblance only highlights how unintentionally comedic the whole thing has become. Michael's Alibi storyline, in particular, borders on parody. The writers expect viewers to believe no one saw him, no cameras exist, and no witnesses were present. Apparently, Port Charles exists in some surveillance-free alternate dimension where technology hasn't been invented. But not everything is painful. The recast Charlotte is a revelation. Talented, expressive, and refreshingly nuanced. Her much-criticized eye-rolling, deliberate, clever acting choices to convey disconnection from her mother. Imagine that, a teenage character behaving like an actual teenager. The backlash says more about viewers than the actress. Compare that to the never-ending vitriol toward Lulu, a character who cannot win. Absent, she's a neglectful mother. Present and holding Charlotte accountable? She's too harsh. It seems her mere existence is offensive to certain factions. On the romantic front, Michael and Jacinda's pairing could actually be interesting. Soap messy in just the right way. Jason, meanwhile, continues playing reluctant superhero, saving Jocelyn, Vaughn, and Britt from various dangers. Of course, Britt owed him an "I love you" after the ankle bomb fiasco, but she settled for survival instead. Fair enough. Joss in Croatia raises another question. If this is her actual job as a WSB agent, why is Jason once again globe-hopping without so much as a nod to fatherhood? One wonders how many times Danny has been left behind while Jason plays action hero. As for Drew, the man's talent for incriminating himself remains unmatched. He blackmails Portia, then wakes up from his shooting determined to blame Michael, even though he suspects Curtis. If poetic justice exists in Port Charles, Drew will finally face the legal consequences he so richly deserves. On the lighter side, Christina's half-tucked shirt is apparently the true villain of the season. One either commits to tucked or untucked. Straddling the line only invites wardrobe-based rage. In sum, General Hospital remains a cocktail of brilliance and buffoonery. For every clever recast or meaningful moment, there's a plot hole wide enough to drive Sonny's limo through. And yet, for better or worse, viewers keep watching. After all, who needs realism when chaos is this entertaining?